Hey everybody, Brian Meadows here from CorrectiveMechanics.com. Today we're talking about how an impairment can cause an injury, which can beget another impairment or another injury. We are talking about what's called the cumulative injury cycle. If one component of the HMS system is out of alignment, whether that's because of muscle weakness or muscle tightness, or even joint arthrokinematics are impaired, that creates a predictable pattern of tissue overload and dysfunction, which leads to decreased neuromuscular control and microtrauma and initiates the cumulative injury cycle. The cumulative injury cycle causes decreased performance, myofascial adhesions, which further alter the length-tension relationships in joint arthrokinematics, and eventually injury. These predictable patterns of dysfunction are referred to as movement impairment syndromes. Movement impairment syndromes refer to the state in which the structural integrity of the HMS is compromised because the components are out of alignment. This places abnormal distorting forces on the structures in the HMS that are above and below the dysfunctional segment. If one segment in the HMS is out of alignment, then other movement segments have to compensate in an attempt to balance the weight distribution of the dysfunctional segment. So other things have to try and take over. You may not even know, not intentionally do it, so that it's just your body's way of saying, oh, you want me to move here? Well, this is not working properly, so I'm going to have to recruit other types of muscles to make that happen. Now, you may know about it, and you may baby it, so you consciously are saying, ow, that hurts, so I'm going to move differently. Kind of one and the same. For example, if the gluteus medius becomes underactive or has been impaired in some way, our tensor fasciae latae muscle will become synergistically dominant in order to produce the necessary force to keep a stability in the frontal plane of our lumbopelvic hip complex. So basically what we're talking about is our gluteus medius is not acting like it should. It's not helping us keeping this stable across our frontal plane, which is lateral movement. So our TFL, which is from the hip all the way down to the knee, starts to become dominant and trying to compensate for what the gluteus medius was supposed to do and is no longer doing. So what happens is when we have an overactive TFL, you might experience some tightness in what's called your IT band or your iliotibial band. It's all the way down to your knee as well. Or you might actually get some tendinitis of that iliotibial band. You might get some knee pain. You know, runners get this a lot. And you actually will experience some low back pain too in your lumbar region. Static malalignments may alter normal length-tension relationships. Common static malalignments may include joint dysfunction or myofascial adhesions. That can lead to or can be caused by poor static posture or improper or overuse. So joint dysfunction is one of the most common causes of pain in an individual. And once a joint has lost its normal arthrokinematics, the muscles around that joint may spasm and tighten in an attempt to minimize the stress at the included segment. So if for example, so let's just talk about the elbow. So the elbow is definitely in between a couple other joints, our wrist and our shoulder girdle complex up here. And if we are playing tennis or racquetball or something, or you're a baseball player, a pitcher, you're really stressing not only the shoulder, but really that joint arthrokinematics of your elbow. So that's why people get tennis elbow or even golfer's elbow, which happens to be the other side, but it doesn't matter because what we're talking about is the overuse and maybe even your technique is not so good that you're really having to crank around that joint. And what's happening is you're causing an injury to that area. So now what happens is your muscle tissue surrounding this, okay, is becoming spastic and creating some adhesions. And that will then impair the mobility of your joint of your elbow, which is called hypomobility. So if you think about it, the muscles, in order for this arm to bend in this direction, the muscles in my bicep have to pull my forearm towards me, and that's going around the elbow joint. And likewise, if I want to straighten my arm out, my triceps have to tighten, my bicep has to loosen, and it pulls my forearm back out. And again, now this is this side of the elbow joint. So if your muscles are so tightened up and spastic, they're not going to move properly. So if you think about this, what we're talking about is the cumulative injury cycle. We started with a joint arthrokinematic issue, which caused a muscle dyspasm, which is now causing that joint to not move like it's supposed to any further, or we're now trying to compensate for it. So now maybe we're starting to do more with our forearm, which is going to cause a problem with our wrist. And likewise, we might do more with our upper part of our arm, which is now going to cause a problem with our shoulders. So you can see how, as a kinetic chain, the cumulative injury cycle, one thing begets another. Certain muscles become tight, altering the length-tension relationship, or overactive, which alters the force-couple relationships, to prevent movement and causes further injury. This process initiates the cumulative injury cycle. Therefore, a joint dysfunction causes altered length-tension relationships. This alters normal force-couple relationships, which alters normal movement patterns and leads to structural and functional inefficiency. So to avoid movement impairment syndromes and the chain reactions that one misaligned segment creates, then we must emphasize optimum static, transitional, and dynamic postural control to maintain the structural integrity of the HMS during functional activities. This is what the Body and Balance program does. Optimum movement system balance and alignment helps prevent movement impairment syndromes and provides optimal and shock absorption, weight acceptance, and transfer of force during functional movements. If you like this video, leave a comment below, and you can go search our other blogs and videos for tips and tricks like this one. If you're looking for a solution that will help fix your body's dysfunctions and imbalances that actually might be causing your aches and pains, you can find it at correctivemechanics.com, where we have a membership program that will help identify your particular body alignment issues and guide you through the exact process in applying the corrective exercise techniques to address your ailments to help you get back to a functional and fit body. See you later.